Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Hello everyone and welcome to This is Football. Welcome to another season review, another stream. Today we're here to talk about Manchester United. Of course, our deep rival. But as you guys know, the name of the channel is This is Football. So it's for all the football fans to enjoy. You get me? It's not called This is Anfield or anything. So we're here to talk about Man United. I'm here as the host asking questions today. And I apologize because it's my reason, my fault that I'm late. After I finished straight facts, I told Terry I have to literally just go and pray. So I went to pray, and now we're here. You get me? So sorry for the people for keeping you waiting this long. But big up to you guys. Thank you guys so much for joining us on yet another stream. And of course, who else to get to review Manchester United, ladies and gentlemen? Then one of the realest YouTube content creators out there, one of the OGs, one of the football pillars of football YouTube. He's here. He's always been absolutely incredible to me, absolutely as real as they come, and is here today to talk Man United. So today the roles are reversed. It's no longer him asking me questions. Today I'm asking him questions. So joining us on the channel, the man, the myth, the legend, man like Terry is in the building. How are you doing, Terry, man?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. Thank you for the introduction. I appreciate it.
Love. Big up to you. Big up to everyone locked in as well. There's already 150 people in here. Let's get the likes up. Make sure you guys are liking the stream. Make sure you guys are subscribing to This is Football if you're yet to do so. Subscribe to the Football Terrace as well. That's where you'll find me. You'll find Terry. We just done the Straight Facts show. Go watch that after the stream if you haven't yet done so. Before we get started, I cannot believe this is the first super chat. Hamza versus Igal street fight. Who wins? I think that might be one of the most awkward street fights of all time.
I don't think anyone would win. They'd end up just sort of like hugging it out on the floor. Yeah. It wouldn't be a good fight. It wouldn't be a good fight. I wouldn't pay to watch that.
That definitely won't be a good fight to watch. Yesterday, on 2 days ago, they asked us on MHF who you think is going to win between you and Mo. The answer was straight away me. But when it comes to Igal,
I think you'd batter Mo. To be honest.
There's a massive size difference.
Exactly.
Who do you think in the chat wins? Igal, some people saying. Fair enough.
I've never met Hamza, but they're both more lover than fighter, if that makes sense. 100%. So I'm going with a pitiful draw in that one.
So listen, let's get big up to you, Promise Gunner. Big up all the super chatters as well. So let's just get into it. Manchester United, obviously this season, FA Cup winners. Carabao Cup eliminated by Newcastle. I believe it was in the 4th round or 5th round. Premier League 8th place finish. Champions League knocked out of the group stages. Just tell me your general feelings on Man United before we get into details, this season overall.
I mean, it ended very well. It ended in a way where I sort of forgot about the bad parts for a few days, which is amazing. And we more than deserved to win on the day against City. We were the better side. We scored one goal that had a fair amount of fortune to it. The second goal was out of this world. So I ended the season in a really good mood. It's another trophy for the cabinet. Overall, when you look at the other 3 competitions we were in, it was poor. We were poor for large parts of the league. Awful in the Carabao Cup against Newcastle at home. And our Champions League run was just... I look back now and it was just poor play. Onana made so many mistakes. There were a few refereeing decisions that went against us. We conceded an offside goal. Rashford being sent off when he shouldn't have been and whatever else. But overall, it was a really, really poor season for Man United by the standard that we want to be at. But we sort of rescued it from a success point of view right at the very end by winning that FA Cup. So we put a silver lining into the grey cloud, but overall, there's still a lot for us to improve on going into next year.
Obviously, one of the things that happened this season, now it feels so far back because it's been a really long time, but we'll address it because it did happen during this season, of course, and that's the takeover, the whole Jim Ratcliffe situation. Obviously, they haven't really made any big, massive decisions yet, but what do you feel currently about the Jim Ratcliffe, obviously ownership, they're now the decision makers at the club?
It was interesting. While you were off praying before we went live, I was listening to a piece on TalkSport where a fan was going crazy because one of the new rules that Sir Jim is supposedly integrating into the club is no more Galacticos, which led to someone saying this is ridiculous. It means if we had the chance, we wouldn't sign Mbappe. And I laughed out loud that people still view Galacticos as a good thing. The Galacticos project failed. Man United in the last 10 years have signed so many players that were sort of huge household names that didn't really want to be at Man United. I think the way words migrate. In life, words migrate. And I get that the original Galacticos were all star players, even though the project didn't work. But I feel like the word Galactico has sort of migrated now to well-known players on huge amounts of money that don't really want to be at your club. That's how I sort of view the modern-day Galactico. So I wouldn't want to sign Mbappe unless he had a genuine desire to be at Man United. I don't want him. If he gets offered £500,000 a week at Real Madrid and we paid him 1.5 million a week and that's why he changed his mind, it would fill me with dread because we've done that so many times in the past decade. So for me, it's very much a case of when I look at the situation with United's owners, I'm loving some of the rules they're bringing in and the structure they're bringing in. The not signing people under 25. I don't believe that is a blanket rule. But if you look over the last 4 years at the best two teams in the world, Real Madrid and Man City, I think City have signed something like 12 to 13 players. Only 2 of them have been over the age of 25. There might have been one in there at 26, but they've all been 25 and under. Real Madrid, you look at all of their signings that cost money. They were all under 25. They've signed 2 free transfers that are over that age in Rudiger and Alaba. So Man United aiming to predominantly sign players under 25 is so normal in football. I don't understand why anybody's triggered about it. And then the other elements around the technical director selecting how we're going to play football across the ball at the club. The manager's still getting a say, but he gets to say what positions need improving. And then he gets a list of players that he has to choose from. But we are selecting those players. I love the sound of the structure that we're putting together. So far, so good for the new owners. And look, you could be shameless and say, look, they've been here 6 months and they won us a trophy straight away. I'm not going to go that far because I don't think they've actually implemented too much of their plans as of yet. That's starting essentially now. The big question is, do we stick with the manager or not? And I understand the reasons for sticking with him. Some of them hold water. I also have a more personal preference towards moving him on. And that's because as a general rule, I feel that we're gutting the whole club. The whole club over the next 2 years is being gutted. The vast majority is being taken out this summer. I believe that there's the possibility that we can get to the level we want to quicker by removing the manager and his coaching staff as well. But if we stick with him, I'm trusting the ownership. And the reason I'm trusting this ownership is because of the individuals they've employed to run the club on a football level. What I've asked for more than any manager and any player for a decade is football decision makers with a pedigree in the game. And we have that now. Man United for too long have tried to reincarnate Fergie by giving a manager complete control of the club, and it doesn't work. Arsenal are not structured like that, and they've improved. City are not structured in that way. Madrid are not. In most European clubs are not structured in a way where their manager has control of the club. The president runs it, and they have sporting directors that control how the club is meant to play football, the players that they sign. The head coach just coaches the first team, and that's predominantly it. And Man United have got to adopt that because most coaches are not brought up now in football to manage football clubs. They're trained to be head coaches of a first team, and we just haven't had the right structure. So I'm personally Ten Hag out still. The style of football last year wasn't good enough. I understand that injuries played a part. 100% they did. But we made adjustments from the Arsenal game towards the end of the season until the City match, and we improved. We tucked our inside forwards into the midfield spaces. We didn't keep exposing our 6, and we improved, and we narrowly got beat by Arsenal. We beat Newcastle and Brighton, and then beat the best team in the world in the FA Cup final. So he's proven he can make adjustments. I just personally feel it was too much, too little, too late. These changes should have come 3 or 4 months earlier. But having said that, I really want to give the new regime at my club a chance, and I want to support it. And I understand that challenge is really important, but I'm going to get behind them, and I'm actually going to support their decisions. I'm going to give their decisions time to marinate, time to cook, and to see the fruits of their labor. And we're not going to see all the outcomes straight away because this isn't a quick fix. This is a genuine rebuild where the entire club is being gutted. And I see a few people saying sacking Ten Hag would be ridiculous. I understand why to some people they think it will be. But the reason for sacking Ten Hag may not even have anything to do with how we performed this last year. Is he willing to give up his power when it comes to transfers? Is he willing to play football in the way in which the new ownership say we want to play? If he's at loggerheads over those 2 points alone with our ownership, he's got to go, irrespective of his previous success. You need your ownership, your board, and your manager to be in sync. Of course, they're going to challenge each other on specific areas, but they need to be singing off the same hymn sheet from the beginning. So there's all these factors. Now, if they come out and say, look, we've had a chat with the manager, we're making big changes, but he is on board with them all, then I'm going to get on board with that decision because I trust Ashworth, I trust Barada, and I trust Wilcock. Their experience in the game dictates that I trust it. Until they mess it up regularly, I'm going to trust it. So I'm going to put my faith into them ahead of time rather than waiting for them to prove it to me until I stop being grumpy and moaning. And I'm going to be positive because I'm very excited because I've got what I want, mate. And that's what it really comes down to. I've got what I want. Does that make sense? I want.
And I do want to talk about Ten Hag a little bit now. So let's kind of dive into that. Big up to Framus Gano says Lissandro is absolutely vital to the Eric Ten Hag system. Big up to all of the guys locked in as well. Make sure you guys are liking and subscribing. 320 people are watching us currently. Big up to you, Framus Gano. And I do want to talk about Ten Hag now. Kind of expand that conversation. Obviously, big up troops are here on asking if Terry's Ten Hag or not. Here's the thing, the Ten Hag conversation. I'm actually going to shock Terry a little bit here. I actually kind of understand a little bit, and I said this to Mo yesterday. I kind of understand a little bit why Man United fans are wary about the whole Ten Hag situation, because maybe some fans have just had enough of like replacing managers, and at the same time, I put myself in their shoes, and I look at the players that, the managers that Man United have been linked with, the likes of Southgate, Potter, even De Zerbi, and others. Do I sit here and say 100% guarantee De Zerbi is going to come and change everything? 100% guarantee Graham Potter is going to change everything? I think Ten Hag could possibly be a good coach for Man United as long as he doesn't make transfer decisions. So as long as that power is given back to the likes of Barada and Jason Wilcox and these guys, and they can make transfer decisions that they kind of control the direction the club is headed in. But if you're a Man United fan and you see some of these names, Potter, Thomas Frank, McKenna, Maresca, whoever, I get why you do want to back Ten Hag, even though there's already enough reasons to sack him. So I kind of understand both perspectives. I mean, obviously, I don't know if you've seen the letter, apparently, that certain Man United fans have written to Man United asking for Ten Hag not to get sacked. And just like with this whole managerial conversation, do you at least understand where the other side is coming from? Or like, are you completely...
I do, and that's why I don't put myself in the Ten Hag out camp, because those people are polarized. Those people, it's one way or the highway. They won't even listen to the arguments in the other direction. I hear the arguments for keeping him, and as I say, I think some of them hold water. I think that taking away the managerial responsibility and making him the head coach could help. He has made those changes towards the end of the season. And I know that Lissandro is very important how he play out from the back. Of course it is. But Lissandro played in games where midfield was still being run through because of the shape that the manager set us up in. And that was more my issue. The most impressive things about Klopp, Arteta, and Pep's systems is not how they attack. It's their defensive shape when they lose the ball. It's over the course of time, Liverpool become a bit leakier in the last few years. It's how hard you've been to break down. You have to be hard to play against. You have to be hard to beat. Man United under Ten Hag have not been hard to play against and beat. That, for me, has very little to do with the injuries, and that is more the system. Because it didn't matter who was fit and who was out, the same problems persist until he made those changes in the Arsenal game. So I think it's about both sides listening to each other. And it's, if the fans are writing in those letters of support, if they don't get what they want, they've equally got to be okay with it. And this is, I came across a lot of these situations in my own professional career. And it goes on now. Like me and KJ are planning something for the summer. And obviously I get the final say because I'm in charge. But I do listen and respect his opinions. But what I would expect from KJ is if I say, listen, I respect your points. We're going to go with one of yours and three of mine. I expect 100% dedication, even though we're not going with all of his ideas.
Yeah.
That's how I've always conducted myself as an individual. So if I was at work and the boss says, Terry, great suggestion, but we're not going to go with your idea. We're going with Flossie's, or we're going to go with mine. I'd go, cool. And I'd work tirelessly to make that work still and be a success. I wouldn't sabotage it or be angry all the time or run an agenda to be able to say, no, it won't work. That's just not my sort of mantra, not me as a person. So I'm listening to both sides and I understand what they're saying. And I believe our ownership and the people running our club are going to get it right in the medium to long term. In the short term, we may not be able to see the wood for the trees. And that's why the message I have for Man United fans is stick together, excuse the pun, but be united and give it time to marinate and cook. Give it time for you to see the results. It's going to take a while. You know, we are in a decrepit, leaky, broken down, stinky house. Before it looks like the mansion we want, we've got to knock it down. We've got to clear the area. We've got to dig the footings. We've got to build the foundation. It's still going to look horrible for months, maybe years. It's going to take time until it is that polished, furnished, ready to live in home that you're proud of. We have got to gut the entire thing. This isn't like Liverpool with Slot, who are bringing in a new manager, bringing somebody back in to run their football club. It's a transitional period for you. It isn't a rebuild. When Pep leaves at the end of the next season, it isn't a rebuild they'll need. It's a very small transition into another top-class manager. Arsenal have finished their rebuild. They're now ready to start being judged purely on what they win and what they don't. We're not there yet. We're nowhere near that point. And Man United fans, every Man United fan out there that for the last 10 years says, sack this manager and bring somebody in better, or get rid of these 3 players and sign 3 better players, we're ready to cook. You've been wrong. You've consistently been wrong. This is what we now need to do. And sometimes you've got to take steps backwards and cut a piece of yourself off to grow. I'm prepared for that. So whether we keep Ten Hag or not, I'm backing the board. Whether we bring somebody new or not, I'm backing the board. It's not about my personal preference. It's about what's right for the club. Until they prove me wrong.
So even if they keep Ten Hag, you're
yes,
okay with it.
And the reason I say that is this: the people currently running that are now going to be running the club, they know more about football than me. I'm going to have an opinion and say whether I like this manager, I don't like this manager. I would have kept Ten Hag, I wouldn't have kept Ten. I'll have an opinion, but I'm not going to have an agenda. And there's a difference between that. I'm going to be supportive. I'm going to look for the positives. I'll still call out the things I don't like because I think it's fair to do that. But I'm not running an agenda. I already know it. I can feel it. I'm not married to any. The only thing I'm married to is don't sell Kobe Mainu. That's pretty much it. It's the only thing that I will lose my temper over. Everything else, I'm open to what they need to do to fix this. And so far, everything that's come out the football club coincides either with what I've been requesting or what I've read and heard other clubs have done that are successful over the last decade. Even down to offering voluntary redundancy to all the staff members who basically don't do anything at the club and just taking a wage out. Small little details. The ownership kicking off about how untidy the office spaces are, how dirty the training facilities are. All these little things, these little peccadillos, all add up to more pride and more passion and more sort of attentiveness to how you work. And every single department at a club feeds into how well you do on a football pitch. Now, when the players turn up to the training ground or they're in the club and it's a mess and there's holes in the wall and there's dirty carpets, all these things send the message. We're not serious. And all these little things are starting to be addressed. So far, I'm really impressed. And there's nothing to suggest that these individuals are not going to turn us back into a force to be reckoned with in the coming years.
So with the current manager, obviously, I've seen kind of I've read the letter yesterday. I've seen where the Man United fans are coming from. I think really it's genuinely about who replaces him, who comes in for Eric Ten Hag, if he is replaced, and who stays. Because I watched his last interview where he's like, if they don't want me here, I'll go and win trophies elsewhere, basically.
Yes.
So he's kind of saying like, okay, obviously I've been successful over here, which to be fair, obviously 2 trophies in 2 years is not like a bad return or anything.
Good.
But at the same time, when I've been doing these reviews, I've been kind of writing in the description like where each club has gone. So with Man United, they did get knocked out of the Champions League group stages. In the Premier League, you finish 8th. In the Carabao Cup, I believe you lost to Newcastle. I think that was like their 3rd team or something when Lewis Hall was playing over there. And like they had a really team at the time. So I think If you ask me honestly, is there enough reason to sack Ten Hag? The answer would probably be yes, even with the trophy. Because you always have to ask yourself, is there something to build
Well,
on with the trophy? That's the
well,
question.
your league position is your and performances are your bread and butter. That's the ultimate barometer for how good you are. Teams have won the FA Cup when they've been relegated. Now that doesn't take
Really?
away from that individual achievement, but you're still assessed for how good you are in your league. That City are the best team in England because they won the league. Arsenal are the
Yep.
second best team in England, and you look at Arsenal that didn't win a trophy. They're in a position to challenge again for the league next year. We're not anywhere near that level, so the manager can be assessed on that, and he should be assessed on that. And it comes down to whether or not our football decision makers at the club, the key decision makers, believe he can turn it round. And I trust their judgment. It's not about, I've got preferences. Like if he goes, my preference out of all the realistic names we're linked to, forget Zidane's and Simeone's, it's not happening, is De Zerbi. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm also not drunk on De Zerbi enough to go, it's all going to be great. There's big question marks over him. He's never managed at this level. How will he adapt to a bigger club? Can some of the defensive frailties we've seen at Brighton, will they be fixed at a bigger club with better players? He's never won a major trophy, so can he get over the line? So I'm not deluded in my opinion to think that it's going to be perfect. He'll cook. It's all going to be perfect. Every manager we're linked to, there's big question marks over them. McKenna and his lack of experience. We're linked to Southgate and he's boring football. Can he get over the line? So it's one of those things for me where I'm just going to trust the key decision makers at my club to get it right. I'm going to get behind it. I'm going to be as supportive as I can and try and help my club every which way possible to get back to the top. And some will say, you've got to have standards, Terry. Well, I do. I have the standards to get back to the very top. But I keep giving this example. No one's debunked it yet. I'm back in the gym. I got overweight. I
Mm-hmm.
can't expect to look how I did at the peak of my fighting career in a month, in 2 months. It's going to take me time to get there. But my standard is to get back lifting more than I've ever lifted before, get my fitness
Mm-hmm.
where it's never been before, and to get myself looking in decent shape for a 38-year-old man. But it's going to take me a lot longer to get into shape now than it did when I was 20 because my body's changed. I'm older. Everything's different. So I can have high standards, but I also have to factor in how long it's going to take to get there. And not enough people do that. And I think that's because some people are naive. I think some people are purposely stupid. And I think there are others who just enjoy being angry. For a lot of people online, the only way they get attention is when they're angry. So if they set an unrealistic expectation in the short term, it allows them to maintain that anger so people look at them. And when it comes to Man United in this circumstance, I don't see how that's conducive with helping your football team become better. I look at Arsenal as an example. When Arsenal fans started to enjoy the football more and relax more and love their team again, they became a better football club. Doesn't mean they shouldn't criticize. But when a lot of the toxicity left and went away, they became a better football club. That pressure seeps into a dressing room. And I know you'll get Standard FC will say, look at the pressure that Madrid fans put on their players. Cool, but Man United are not where Madrid are. We've fallen from that pedestal 10 years ago, and we haven't been on it. So I want that pressure applied again one day, but we've got to get there.
So I think standard essentially is a buzzword now used to just like talk about all these
standards. I mean, you can have high standards, but if you have a standard, Husam, I'm 5'10". I can have the highest standards in the world, train hard every single day to become an NBA player. It's not happening. Doesn't matter how high my standards are. That's an impossibility. You know, I might push my son and have the highest standards for him to become a doctor. Still going to take him until he's mid-20s to become a doctor. No matter how much work I make him do now at 3 years old, he's got to get his education. He's got to do however long in medical school. There's certain things that take time in life. And I just sort of look at it and think to myself, saying you've got to have standards, it doesn't mean anything. If you have to look at the reality of your situation and say, well, let's move. That's what we've decided to do. That's our plan of action. I'm going to get behind it, try and help my team get to the top. I've noticed in football, too many people think their football opinion they treat it like their football opinion is their new album that's dropping. And your opinion's important. That's why we all give it. But I don't think that's why people watch us per se. I think it's more about the discourse, the conversation, the challenge, the understanding, the listening, the absorbing what other people think and feel, pushing back on it. You know, I think it's more so than no one watches. Troops has been watching. I'm sure he's still tuning in. Troops is one of the best in the business. But Troops, just like everybody, has got lots of things right and lots of things wrong, but yet he still grows. his opinion being right all the time and pushing that agenda isn't what made Troops so popular and so brilliant in this industry. It was his comedic value, his funny rants when things went wrong, the way he does a bit of trolling. And when you scratch below the sort of the banter element of Troops, which is amazing, his football knowledge is very good. But that doesn't mean he won't get lots of things wrong like the rest of us. And I think that for me is the issue in this. Everyone's so like, I've got to be right. I've got to be right.
But you don't know for a fact that if Ten Hag does not get sacked, that there will be a meltdown. I know. I'm not saying you will melt down, but you know the Man United fans, there will be a meltdown in the Man United YouTube space. You know this, Terry.
Of course. No, it's do you know what it is for me? Of course there's going to be a meltdown. You know, Goldbridge said the other day, and listen, me and Goldbridge kind of patched things up a little while ago and you know, kind of buried the hatchet with our issues, which I like to do. But I heard him the other day say he's going to be Ineos out if they sack Ten Hag. Why? Just because you haven't got what you want, you may think it's wrong, but get behind the decision, be supportive, be as encouraging as possible. Because the one thing I'd say is this: Man United fans, by and large, have had standards for the last decade. We've slagged off managers, we've gone mental, that hasn't made it any better. Having standards alone doesn't improve you. At the end of the day, Husam, you could have standards of being in good shape and looking like Brad Pitt. You're never going to look that way, bruv. You're always going to be a little bit overweight and a 6 out of 10 in looks.
There you are.
Do you know what I mean?
Don't make me show my biceps again. Let's not go there.
I don't need to see them, bruv. Put them away. But yeah, so listen, I understand people having the standards, but we have to be realistic about where we are. And I think we all say this as well. Players today are softer than they used to be. Cool. Then why treat them in a way that's going to make them worse all the time? I'm not saying don't criticize, but you haven't got to run agendas.
No, but here's the thing, though. I get what you're saying, because you're saying both sides, there might be like some form of reaction. So the people who are backing Ten Hag, if Ineos do sack Ten Hag, they're going to go like, Ineos is a problem. And on the other side, if you keep Ten Hag, then kind of the Ten Hag outers are also going to have a meltdown. So do you think Ineos basically are in a lose-lose situation currently?
They are with polarized people, but those polarized people a lot of them will continue to kick the can down the street no matter what they do. And so I always said it, the Jose in, Jose out debates still haven't ended 6 years later. They just move on to the next manager. Typically the ones that were Jose out were the ones who were very strong on the Ollie in. The Ollie inners were some of the first to be Ten Hag out. You'll get some that have done it with both, and they've been fairly consistent, which is fair. But the majority of the time, it's all agenda-based. And you see it with Arteta at Arsenal. So you'll see this. Say he wins the Premier League next year. There will be a percentage of Arteta routers that will say, yeah, great, but he's only won one in the 5 years he's been here. They'll kick the can again. They'll kick it down the road again another season, because that's they can't just go, got that one wrong, because we all do. And that's the worry for me. I'm going to get behind the decisions of the board, because they have been what I've been asking for. So yeah, listen, and I could be right, I could be wrong, but I don't care about being right or wrong. I care about Man United becoming a better football team, if that makes sense. And of course, we'll have the debates, and I care enough about my opinion to say things, but never enough to run an agenda, especially against my own club. I just don't get it. I don't get it. Like, some people think I've got an agenda. They go, you've been nasty to Ten Hag because you're running an agenda, you're doing it for clicks, you want to earn money. No, I'm giving an honest opinion about what I think will make Man United better. But I don't always hope I'm wrong. I just hope Man United get better. But if us getting better means that my opinion was wrong, I couldn't give a fuck. Like, it genuinely doesn't. Yeah. As a man, I'm not sitting there going, if I get an opinion wrong, I'm less of a man. No, life don't work like that, bruv. Do you know what I mean? It really doesn't.
If Nunes scores 40 goals next season, even though I dislike him and I'd sell him right now for like a packet of Pringles, if he scores 40 goals next season, then it's good for us. Finally, he starts scoring goals. Finally, he's doing what he's brought in here to deliver to begin with. So I completely agree with you on that take. And we'll expand a little bit more as well on more Man United conversation. Let me just go to the super chats. Big up to all of you guys. 500 people locked in. Make sure you guys are slapping the like button. Make sure you guys are subscribing to This Is Football if you're ready to do so. And of course, make sure you guys are subscribing to the Football Terrace. We're 15 likes off 200. Get that done ASAP. Liverpool are retooling where Man United are starting a new era. I'm so glad that Terry actually agrees with me on this whole Liverpool thing because there are shameless Liverpool fans who are genuinely actually talking about rebuilds and starting from scratch,
Yeah,
and all they want to see is a style of play.
liars.
Bro, like, respectfully, if we keep the four musketeers, who are Alisson, Trent, Van Dijk, and Mo, and we sign 4 or 5 new players, like, you cannot tell me rebuild and all this. I'm expecting to
You
challenge next season.
Liverpool should be challenging for the Premier League next season standard.
100%.
And
100%.
the
Also,
Liverpool fans saying you're in a rebuild. No, you're not. And the
yeah,
man, the guy that's the best at running football clubs in the world, Edwards, is now running your football club again. You won more under him than what you won without him during the Klopp era. Yes, Klopp was a world-class manager. We don't know how good Slot is. But your team was just in a title race now. To say we shouldn't be in one of the Man United fans, when we went from Fergie to Moyes, didn't say 3 or 4 years. We expected to win the league still.
yeah,
It's different now because we've been out of the race for so long. But if Arteta left Arsenal today because Pep retires and he goes Man City, and our Arsenal get a new good quality, highly ranked manager, they wouldn't go 4 more years. They'd go, no, challenge and win the fucking league. Do you know what I mean? It's crazy.
yeah.
But a lot of people want to use the process as a comfort blanket, as a shield to say, well, we don't have to have expectations because we're in a rebuild. It's so embarrassing, man. So embarrassing.
I accept that. Big up to Promise, who says League Hunter, aka the Standards FC cult leader. Big up to Tully. We've had multiple conversations about this. I believe there's progression, there's standards, there's stuff like that. But listen, big up to you. We're not here to talk about Arsenal, but thank you for the super chat. Big up to Yahya, who says, really happy to see Husam X30 on This Is Football channel for the first time. It's not the first time, fraud. Great idea to do more content as a duo, so wish you all the success. Been watching both since they started on YouTube and knew that they were goats. Thank you so much, Yahya, for the super chat. I appreciate you. Listen, I've said this publicly already multiple times. I've said this behind Terry's back. I've said it to his face. Listen, Terry's always been incredible to me, as real as they come. Always kept it genuine, 100%. Like, at the end of the day, the fact that he's coming on This Is Football as well is obviously like massive to the channel. So big up to you, my guy Yahya, and thanks so much for the super chat. Big up to you. Big up to Chike, who says, Terry, I couldn't agree more with you. I thought I was gonna be the best engineer in my family. Didn't work out, and I realized it wasn't for me, and it took me a while to become a journalist in college.
Yeah, I mean, that's just it. Like, you might have had the standards, but not everything's for you. You've got to go down a different path to get to the level of, status that you want to get in life. And sometimes everyone and that's why the journey is really important. And I do agree with Lee Gunner. He got mentioned earlier that the end goal is to win the trophies. It absolutely is. But where I disagree with Lee is essentially about being miserable and angry the whole time until you lift them. I can't live like that. It's especially when it comes to sport. Especially when it comes to sport, you have to enjoy the journey. You have to enjoy the small wins because you never know what's around the corner. And in life as well. And generally, like, I'm not where I want to be in life yet. I am in a pretty good space, but I still enjoy my moments. Do you get what I'm saying? That's a problem with that logic. I always look at the logic and expand it out throughout all of football, all through life. Then you see where it really holds water. And it doesn't. Otherwise, until you reach what you consider to be the pinnacle in any given field or any aspect of your life, what, you're not happy? I don't know. It doesn't. Maybe it's just different people see the world differently. I can't live
a journey
like
that takes you to the destination, basically. And by the way, Chika, you're looking at someone who did study chemical engineering and now is doing YouTube. You get me? So,
well, also, if you don't study and understand the journey, how can you help other people get there? You have to know. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, there's a formula. I mean, there's a formula to it. Some of it is talent as well. Because I always get people messages. Terry, how can I get like my YouTube following up? There are things you can do, but in the cold hard light of day, not everybody. Like, you get some people. I get so many. You see so many content creators that try to be like Expressions. I would never try to be like Expressions because I don't have the comedic timing or the ability to ad-lib in that way. So I hold it out. It's like, don't just copy people. Understand some of the things they've did, but you've got to find your own way a little bit. But that's why the journeys are important. It's an understanding.
100%. You have to have charisma. There's a lot you need to do YouTube. You get me? There's a lot you need to do, not just charisma. You need to have good football opinions, good banter, accept banter. Don't get rattled by the chat. I can name 15 different things, but it's all about personalities at the end of the day. Thank you to Chike, Yahya, and Fromis for the super chats, guys. So speaking of the pinnacle and speaking of development and speaking of all that, we do have to talk about the other side of the club. Because it's not all Jim Ratcliffe and it's not all Ten Hag and it's not all that. We do have to talk about the players a little bit, because there are players this season who have let you down. There are players who have done really well. So just tell me your general thoughts on the players this season. Who you think have performed the best? Who you think have let you down this season? Where are you with the players you currently have?
Anthony was the worst. Let's just get it out of the way. Anthony, I thought was awful this year, and I do hope we find him a new home. I think Kaz, he got let down by the system, but I also think his legs went and his head went during the season. So Kaz and Anthony are the two that stand out as having poor seasons. Who was I impressed with? Rashford had a terrible season. He did, again, by his standards. I was so disappointed in him overall. And gutted by his performances. I really hoped he was going to go on to maintain last season's levels, but he couldn't. So those three really stand out as the three that really poor. Positives: Bruno Fernandes, again, I thought had a very good season in a broken system. And towards the end of the campaign, when the manager, for the first time in 2.5 years, he was put back in his best position at Man United. Since barring the Newcastle game, when we first re-signed Ronaldo, he was moved out deeper, left, right, everywhere, other than playing off the striker. As soon as he got moved back into that position, the goals and the assists and the creativity came back. I think there's a tremendous player in Bruno Fernandes. He's a beast. He's a monster when it comes to creativity, and that's what he's good at. So stop making him go deep to try and dictate play. Stop putting him out wide with no real pace. Put him where he's one of the best in the world at that particular job, and you get the best out of him. I was impressed with I was really impressed with Delo. I thought Delo had a tremendous season, considering he played half of it at left back and he's a right back. I thought we had a very, very, very good campaign. Player of the year. Bruno got voted player of the year, but Bruno said in an interview, he goes, "Thank you, I appreciate it, but it should have been Delo." So he was recognized by the players in a big way as well. I want to shout out Ahmad. He didn't have a long season with us. He didn't get played enough by the manager, but he had a really big impact. We would not have won the FA Cup without him. That performance and goal against Liverpool in the quarterfinals was just, it came on and he helped change the game. He scored the winning goal and he had a really nice cameo end to the season, and I hope that he can grow from there. I thought Garnacho scores a goal in an FA Cup final, scored the goal of the season. Not consistent yet as a player. I still actually think he played too much. And one of the big reports actually come in from Wilcock so far has been the young players play too much football this year. We shouldn't be relying on raw kids as much as we are. So him and Rasmus both fit into that category where I know they weren't consistent, but I can see great potential in them, and I was happy with them for that. I don't think they should be starting as much as they have done. And you saw towards the end of the season, Rasmus being used off the bench, and he came on and looked good. And he still scored 16 goals in his debut season in England, which is pretty decent from him. He's the youngest player ever to score, I think, 6 games on the bounce in the Premier League. So those two did well. Obviously, the standout for me, though, my personal preference, Kobbie Mainoo, was just majestic, sublime, clutch. He can do everything in the middle. He can win the ball back. He can press. He can pass. His half turn is brilliant. His control is out of this world. And he's got an eye for goal. And I think that he literally has everything you need to become a complete midfield player. Tackle, pass, score. You know, he can use his head. He's fairly physical. Such one of the greatest debut seasons by a Premier League player ever, in my humble opinion.
When do you think you guys are going over the top?
No.
One of the best debut seasons ever.
Yeah. In my opinion, I'll tell you as to why. So if you think about the things that we hold players up in high regard for, ability-wise, he ticks that box. Yes? Mm-hmm. So he has that high ability that a lot of people get judged on. For a midfielder, you've got to look at the fact that he was in one of the most broken systems in the league. And he still shone. And he had big moments in Premier League and cup competitions for us, as an example.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, him being able to do that at 18, and he turned 19 in the season with no first team experience, was absolutely brilliant. We saw his development and growth, his understanding of the game come along. But it's things like scoring that winning goal, which was out of this world in terms of its quality, in an FA Cup final. It adds so many layers. Didier Drogba, if you took his goals in finals away, I don't think he'd be regarded as high up in the pecking order of football as he is.
Never.
But it was he scored a good amount of goals, but it wasn't an obscene amount. But where Drogba shines is that he scored so many important goals in so many big games in the Premier League and massively in cup competitions, hugely in finals. So when I speak about Mainu having one of the best debut seasons I've seen, I am saying his ability was great. I am saying that he was excellent in lots of individual games, but he also turned up and, in my opinion, was the best midfielder on the pitch in an FA Cup final against the best team in the world, season 1. So I'm only saying one of the greatest debut seasons ever. I'm not saying it's the best, and I'm purely talking about the debut season that he
that
had.
One was insane.
Yeah, Cesc Fabregas' debut season's up there. You know,
Michael Owen when he first started.
Michael Owen's debut season could go in there as the best. There's lots of people. But what I'm saying is it's in that ballpark with those people. I'd have to go back and assess those seasons again because I don't want to disrespect anybody from those eras. There's been a lot of great seasons.
Shit, we forgot, by the way, Haaland.
Yeah, but then Haaland. So I'm not counting Haaland's first season. It wasn't. I'm talking about players making their debut campaign. So
like academy products, basically.
Yeah, I'm talking about someone's first ever season. Does that make sense? Not. I've played for 4 years. I've now come to the Prem. So let me specify. I'm talking about from never really playing in the first team, maybe a handful of games, and now you're starting regularly. He's one of the best debutants I've ever seen in the Premier League across all the metrics that we all hold dear, you know. And I'm not saying he's the best. That's a debate, but it's been one of the best in my opinion. But when it comes to him, still I'm keeping my feet on the floor. I know how good he is. I know how good he could become. Listening to him speak, though, I've got so much faith and hope and belief that he's going to become a star. He's so intelligent. He's so level-headed. He speaks so eloquently. That tells me he's got that level head. Does that make sense? And I think that level-headed nature is going to serve him very, very well indeed. And that's why I hope the club gets fixed up. Because I don't want to see another player slip through the cracks because the club isn't developing people in the right way. So there are some really good players this season for us that shone. But for me, Mainu, he just embodies everything that is beautiful about Manchester United. And very, very proud of him this year.
So there's another player I want to talk about. Big up to Chunk, who says W, Husam and Terry, more Johnny Sins in the Premier League. Thank you so much for the super chat, Chunk. I appreciate you. I have no idea who Johnny Sins is, but it's some sort of joke. I'm sure that's that's one of them jokes. But big up to you. The most spoken about Man United player this season, right here, he's on the thumbnail. And like Marcus Rashford, obviously even linked away to a move away from Arsenal. I know you've already said Marcus Rashford hasn't had a good year this season, which I do agree with. I don't think he's had one of the best years. Where sit with the whole Rashford conversation? Do you want to sell him? Do you want to sell him to Arsenal? Do you think he'd bang over there? Do you want to give him another chance? Where do you exactly sit with it? Because he's one of the polarizing figures where you speak to some people, like I've spoken to Man United fans, like, yes, I don't care, get rid of him, get him to Arsenal. He's not good enough. He's not nowhere near Man United standards. You have people on the other side, kind of are pro Marcus Rashford. He's probably the most spoken about. Now I understand who Johnny Sins is. Look at you, dirty bastard.
Johnny Sins. He's a adult worker.
So with Rashford, where do you sit with it all?
If between him and the club, there isn't harmony, sell him. You have to sell someone if there's no harmony. But I want there to be harmony. So if I look at my personal preference, I want it to work. I think there's a player in there. So everybody's saying that he's not good enough. If he isn't good enough, then he'll go to a team of Spurs' level or lower.
Who?
Whoever that is, Spurs or lower, Newcastle, Villa,
Palace,
West Ham. And I'm not slagging those clubs off. I'm saying if he isn't quality, that's where he'll go. But currently, he's linked to PSG's, Arsenal's, who are one of the best teams in England right now, one of the best teams in Europe, really. Who you look at the teams that are trying to buy him, and it's like, Jesus, he's good, right? It's not teams that are below Man United, or I know the league-wise we were poor this year, but teams that are below us in the general pecking order of things. It's teams that are above us right now in the general pecking order of things and have been consistently above us that are looking at him. So it tells you there's a player in there. I would hate for him to go to Arsenal because I believe if he leaves Man United, he'll cook. He might leave Man United to get back to his very best if he feels too much pressure or there's been too much water under the bridge and he needs to move on. And there's so many things that are going on. I just want the club to make a decision based on football and not based on sentiment, romance, loyalty, or money. So I can't let him go. He makes us too much money. Or we can't let him go. He's born and bred. Or we can't let him go. He's going to be upset. We have to make the right decision football-wise. A big part of it's going to be how we're going to play football. If he doesn't suit as a player how we want to play football moving forward, then again, I think raise the money, move him on and bring in players that do, because our biggest problem in the last 10 years has been the Frankenstein squads we've created that don't match the style of football we're currently trying to play because it's been built by 2 or 3 different managers with different systems. So again, I'm not married to keeping Rashford, but I would love him to stay in for it to work. I'd love him to get back to his very best because I think when he's on song, there's a very, very good player. And I give him the same energy as I gave Pogba. I think Pogba was damaged by the football club more than Pogba damaged Man United. The same as the 2 and a bit years we didn't play Bruno Fernandes in his best position and his numbers were still good, but they dropped off. We put him back in his best position and he starts scoring and creating more than any other midfielder in Europe in that 2-month period. We've got to stop putting square pegs in round holes, play people in their best positions, but in a system that gets the best out of them. And if we do that, and if the system is, listen, we need a Rashford for this system, then you build the system to work to get the best out of these individuals. So, yeah, as I say, I'm not married to him leaving, but I do understand why he might have to go. I
have a very unpopular opinion. I actually really think he'd bang at Arsenal. This is one of the most unpopular opinions. I know me and you agree on this, but I spoke to so many people who completely disagree. I really believe like Rashford would genuinely score so many goals at Arsenal because of the way that they play football. He would alleviate pressure off Saka as well, which would allow him to thrive. I think Arsenal fans, the ones that are saying, I don't want Rashford, I'll be honest with you, I really can see him scoring like around 20 goals in that Arsenal system, the way that they play football, the way that they do all of that. I think he would bang at Arsenal. If I was in the Man United position, I wouldn't want to sell to Arsenal. I've seen some people say, I don't care, just sell him, just let him go. I want to get rid of him, all that type of stuff. But I just think low-key, he would bang at Arsenal, Put him on that left-hand side instead of Martinelli, pace, power, can get him behind, give him creativity. Not all pressure is on him, as you just said. It's more about the team. It's more about Arteta than it is him specifically. Like, there's a lot for us to unpack. But I really think the guy could bang at Arsenal. And if I were a United, I wouldn't want to sell him to Arsenal at all. Like, there's one thing selling him to PSG and him banging at PSG, but there's one thing selling him to Arsenal and him banging at Arsenal because that affects you directly. That's kind of the big difference here. Because he'd even play against Man United and possibly score as well.
That's where I completely agree. If we are going to sell him, my preference would be for it to be abroad. I'd like to see Rashford do well after leaving, but I'd hate to see him doing well against a proper rival of Man United. It would hurt so much. I mean, Chelsea fans try and play it down, but they were definitely in pain watching Kai Havertz do so well this year. They were definitely in pain watching Mason Mount lift that FA Cup trophy. They were. It's just 100. I mean, I've seen the video footage of them all on the watch along, like almost in tears. Do you know what I mean? So if Rashford went there and was the difference between Arsenal coming second and winning the Premier League, and he standed, and then you get the meltdown of, oh my God, we let that player go. If it's abroad, you don't notice it as much. When it's in your own country, that is the, very much RVP. It hurt Gooners when Robin van Persie joined Man United, and helped win us that season. I would be broken if it happened. So, listen, I hope it works out for him at Man United or he goes abroad. That's my general thought.
Fair enough. I agree with that. I really think the guy would probably bang at Arsenal. And I've been actually trying to convince some Arsenal fans of this. They're like, no, don't bring me Rashford. Don't bring me Rashford. Like, yo, listen, he ain't as bad as you think. Before I go to the super chats, big up to all of you guys. There's just one last topic left to discuss with Terry before we just do super chats and get out of here, which is the Man United future. Obviously, the direction that Man United are headed in. We've already spoken about the structure. We've spoken about the players. We've spoken about the manager. Just tell me how excited you are for the Man United future, and what do you expect? What do you expect for the next season? What do you expect for the short-term future, long-term future, the direction that your club's headed in with all the structural adjustments that have been done at Man United? Where do you see your club, let's say, in a 5-year period?
I think Ineos are going to get it right. I understand the pushback as to why they won't. I understand that Nice are, a fifth-place team currently in France. They're not winning league titles, but there's a fundamental difference. They don't have... Nice can't spend like City and PSG did in the early days of takeovers because of FFP, and Nice are a tiny club in comparison. Equally, 2 or 3 of the managers they have employed there that have started doing really well have been poached by bigger clubs within a season and a half. So it's going to stop them. They equally haven't been able to employ people of the caliber of the Blancs and the Baradas to go in there and run it, because Nice is just not as appealing as Manchester United. So I think that there are some reasons to be concerned, and I understand them, but I also think you're comparing an apple with a piece of chalk. I really don't think there's a comparison between the two clubs. I love who we've brought in to run the club. They understand the standards. They understand what's needed. I believe over the next 5 years, Man United will be at the very least capable of and challenging to win Premier Leagues again in the next 5-year period. I have a lot of faith in what they're going to do.
What's a realistic target for eventually lifting the Prem? Give me a realistic time period, because there are people who are doing too much on either side. Some people saying it might take you like 5 years to win a Premier League, which I think is too long. And some people are saying 2 years. Like, where do you lay with this whole, like, let's say winning the Prem is the ultimate role?
So that's why I say challenging. And the reason I say that is because you don't know how good everybody else is going to be at that time. So I would expect at the beginning of our 3rd season under Ineos, so that will be not this one, not the next one, the one after, for us to be ready to start mounting a title challenge at that point. So closing the gap dramatically on the team at the top, going toe-to-toe with them and being close to them. If you're at that point and you're like Arsenal did last year and this year, if we're doing that and you've got a chance of winning the Premier League, you're a good enough team to win it, then I think you start setting the expectations on how many Prems you want, because you've got to gauge how good everybody else is. If you get to that point, but there's 3 teams that are all getting 95, 96 points, setting the standard of win the league or we sack the manager could be seen as crazy by then, because you could be a 4th place team on over 90 points. No one's sacking their manager in that circumstance, because the chance of somebody else getting you to that next level is crazy. It's unless you're bringing in an exponentially better manager. So we have to weigh it all up. I want to be in title challenges at the end of 3 seasons' time. I want the football to be. I want the football to be better, and I want us to be harder to play against very quickly. So I would expect late September, early October for us to look like a different team in terms of how hard we are to play against. I don't expect us to be perfect. I don't expect there to not be ebbs and flows in the season, especially if we have a new manager and we're not getting a new style, even with the same manager and a new style. But I expect us to look better very quickly. I expect it, because that element, you don't need to have the squad yet ready to win a league, because Pep didn't year 1, but you saw what he was trying to do. They came 4th, didn't they? They didn't win a trophy, but you saw what he was trying to do. You see what Palace's manager is already trying to do at Palace. You then have to grow on that and keep adding better players. It's harder for the smaller teams at times because they can't buy the quality. They lose quality that they do have. Like if Mateta keeps scoring like this, he'll probably get bought into January, and that's that done there as an example. So That's sort of my expectation. But I do believe they'll make it right. They're not an investment company. They're not a hedge fund who are buying us to make profit in years to come. Ineos as a business make billions of pounds out of other things that far more than they'll make out of selling Man United, if that makes sense. Because to even make a good profit, they'd have to sell us for double the money, which is only ever good. So even if they are in it for money and they're buying it, say they buy it in totality in the end for 6 billion. To double their money, they've got to make us value at 12 billion. You're only doing that by making us successful. You're only doing that by making us win. So that's why I think they'll get it right. Do I think they'll be perfect and every decision and every appointment and every signing is going to be brilliant? No. That, again, would be stupidity to think that. But I do believe, that's why I'm going to give things time to marinate and cook. I believe over the next 5 years, Man United will become a genuine force to be reckoned with again. And my real belief surrounding that is we've gone from having bankers, accountants, and marketing experts making football decisions for 10 years to football people with genuine pedigree in the game doing it. That for me is a reason why I have faith. It isn't even about St. Jim per se. It's the Baradas and co that give me real confidence.
For next season, what do you expect? Just right now, next season, short term. What's your realistic expectations for next season?
It's hard because I don't know who the manager is. It's hard. But let's just say we keep Ten Hag. Let's just paint that picture. We keep Ten Hag for this show, and this might change in the summer. If we keep Ten Hag, I expect top 4 finish and a trophy.
Okay, and do you think that's realistic or too unrealistic? And if you sack the manager, does the expectations change?
It depends on who we... If we go for McKenna and the approach is... my expectations short term will be different to a manager that's already here, that's already won 2 trophies 2 seasons running. And people are going to... By the way, not achieving it doesn't mean I want him sacked, because we might be brilliant next year, but still come 5th because 4 teams ahead of us are just better. But if Ten Hag stays, why would I not expect him to win a trophy next year when he's won 2 years running anyway? Plus, I believe even if he stays, even if it's Ten Hag, we will be a better footballing team next year because the way we're being run is going to dictate that we are. And if we become a harder team to break down and get beat, I expect us to win the Europa League. There is no reason when you look at the teams in there, no one drops down from the Champions League. As long as we become a team that's hard to break down again, we should be able to win that. We should be able to win it. Not saying we will, but we should be able to. So, yeah, I definitely expect a trophy from him.
Who from the teams are actually in the Europa League, the good ones that we recognize?
Roma are in there. Spurs are in there. I did see this earlier on today. One second.
Spurs and win a trophy. Come on, Terry.
But, yeah, I just mean good teams as in the sense of, like, teams that we would recognize. Someone put the list out. I saw a list on...
I'm going to look at it now.
Europa. Let's have a little look here. Someone sent me a list earlier on today, but I can't find it now.
Here I have it with me right here. Sociedad, Lazio, Porto, Nice, Lyon, United, Spurs, Hoffenheim, Frankfurt, Bilbao, Roma, and Alkmaar. The rest, with all due respect.
So this season, on our performances, I wouldn't expect to beat all those teams. But you understand where I'm coming from, that
yes.
I believe we're going to improve on this ownership with or without Ten Hag staying because of the systems they're going to put in place and the style of play, the players they're going to buy. I would expect us to be a better team next season. So therefore, when I look at those sides, I would expect us to have a really good chance of winning that. No Champions League teams can drop down. So you suddenly don't get, Barcelona and, the good third place team. You get none of them dropping down. I would expect it. So, yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah, it's definitely fair, 100%. Europa League, there isn't that much competition this year. Big up to all of you guys. I'm just going to read super chats before we wrap up the stream. Big up to Fromis, Yahya, Chike, Chunk, Dinesh, and Honesty Hortensia for the super chats. Make sure guys are slapping the like button. Make sure guys are subscribing to This Is Football and the Football Terrace as well. Big up to Dinesh, says, evening, gentlemen. Getting ready for the Champions League final on the way home from work. Dortmund coaches on the way to Wembley. 15 minutes walk to Wembley from home. Saturday we'll go to Wembley. Feel the atmosphere. Oh, yeah, the Champions League final is this Saturday.
Yeah, I forgot about that, yeah.
Champions League final is this Saturday. That'll be a great game.
I really hope Dortmund do it. I hope Sancho has a great game. I want the underdog to win this one. Although, I'd kind of like to see Bellingham ball out as well. and do it.
If Madrid win the Champions League, the only way one of them, Bellingham or Vinny, does not win the Ballon d'Or next season is literally just if someone else wins like a European trophy who has a lot of clout, like Mbappe. If France win the Euro.
Or I tell you who could win it if they won the Euros and he was one of the top goal scorers is Harry Kane. Even though he didn't win anything domestically, he was the highest goal scorer in Europe, and you know that Harry Kane PR is strong, bruv. It is strong.
Yes.
If he went to
but
the
do you think
Euros
it's
and
strong
scored
enough to beat a Madrid player? That's the question.
If they win it, no. If they
Yeah.
don't win it, and yeah, maybe, but yeah, Mbappe, if he won the Euros, he could probably do it because he's Mbappe.
Yeah, that guy is really a guy with a strong PR. Big up to Honesty, who says Liverpool be more suited than Chelsea in the early stages of their multi-club model because of the structures they have in place, is what Ben Jacobs has said. I mean, listen, Honesty, kind of, obviously, I know you're a Liverpool fan. Our club, kind of, there's nothing going on right now. And it's usually the calm before the storm because me and Terry are just sat there hearing nothing about Liverpool, seeing no news about Liverpool. And then you wake up one day and suddenly a player is being announced by Liverpool Football Club. That's kind of how we do it, just out of the blue type thing. But I know there is a couple of people who are interested in like the likes of Gonzalez, Ederson from Atalanta. I can give you names of players who are interested in, but no ITK or any Liverpool journalist will be able to tell you exactly who we're going to sign because the lists are long and we're doing our due diligence, doing our due research on everything. When it comes to the multi-club model, I've already said publicly I don't support the multi-club model. I always like the smaller clubs to have their own thing and succeed in their own way and not to become the side dish of the main plate, if you would like, because I'm kind of against that. I understand it from a business perspective, but I look at it from the smaller club perspectives as well. Anyway, guys, big up to all of you guys. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Thank you to Terry as well for being absolutely incredible on the stream. Big up to you, Terry. Big up to everyone in the chat. Big up to all the super chatters. Make sure you guys are slapping the like button. Make sure you guys are subscribing. Are you doing a reaction to the Conference League final?
When is that, tonight?
Yes, so that's a no, bro.
No.
Okay. So...
I forgot it was on. No, I won't be. I might just actually watch a game of football and chill out. Do you know? I very rarely get to do that. So
that's fair.
Yeah.
I'm not even doing a watch along chat, so the Conference League can hold that respectfully.
Who's in the final? Who's actually in that? I know.
Olympiacos and someone.
Well, yeah, Olympiacos and whom? Fiorentina. Okay, 2 years running they've been in that. Yeah, I'm not watching it. I will watch it. I just won't be going live. Yeah. Do we know any players that are playing that I recognize names of them?
Not really. There's that Moroccan striker who scored like 3 or 4 times against Villa. He's been having a good
yeah. So I'll watch it. I'll watch the game definitely.
Yeah. Big up to you guys.
Pleasure coming on, mate, as ever.
Thank you so much, Terry. Make sure, guys, go check out the Football Terrace tomorrow. I think there's the top 6 show as well, so you stay tuned for that. There's transfer daily shows, and we have Ahwa later on tonight at 10 p.m. UK time, so stick around for that. Love you all, and we'll see you guys later. Peace out.